Hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Chiem experience. Um, this is it's an interesting topic here because the first thing that I'm going to say is just what the goal of this is. And the reason why I'm doing this is number one, document the process, but number two, I'm going to teach everything that I learn and try to create a good kind of something people value. That's really the end result here. Now, the structure of this podcast is basically going to be this. I'm going to bring 5 topics to talk about every day, and they're going to be about things that I'm learning. So it could be any sort of projects that I'm taking in life, whether that be in my business ventures or health, or anything I'm reading, any sort of knowledge that I'm gaining. I'll just talk about that, try to create a sort of video diary for myself so I can come back to this, obviously, and see, remind myself of the lessons I've learned and help other people. So you can also learn from the lessons that I'm learning, and we'll go together. So what I want to talk about today. So I was actually watching Gary Vaynerchuk, and he had there was a clip that hit me. You know when you're watching something, and sometimes just that one line, that one quote, it really hits you in another way so that you remember it. This quote that stuck out for me was basically what he said is, you shouldn't be moonlighting your passion, you should be moonlighting how you make money. Something along the lines of that. And for those of you who don't know what moonlighting means, basically what moonlighting is when you work at one job and then you work a part-time job afterwards as well. So you have one full-time job and now you have a part-time job. You're moonlighting with that part-time job. Gary is saying you should instead of having a main job that you work throughout the day, that's your main thing, and then doing your passion on the side, switch it around. People live life backwards. He says people get a lot of bills. They get these high bills every month that for reasons that doesn't even make them happy. And his big argument is like, okay, you have an extra room in your house, sell your house and go rent so you can actually live the lifestyle you want to do and actually live out your passion. The other thing too that couples with this right now is the younger you are, the easier it is to start. It's like a basic saying where it's just like, when's the best time to plant a tree? 50 years ago. When's the next best time right now? That's what I'm putting on. Sorry, I'm just putting moisturizer on my face. um, so what was I saying? Yeah, so it just start now. And given the fact that you're so young, your expenses, your real kind of expenses that you need to have are so low. What is it going to be? Even if you didn't pay them, what would they take? But you might have some student loans. Hopefully you don't even have to go that route. You might be just sitting at the bottom, $0, have nothing to risk. I remember watching a video where Steve Jobs had the same idea when he started Apple. He said, him and his buddy, it was a no-brainer. It's a no-risk situation, and just go for it. So, and then as you get older, obviously maybe you accrue a husband or wife, maybe you get a house, you have a big car payment, you have different things that you have to keep up with. Once you have a kid too, that's a whole nother level where you have to really be on top of your game, and you can't take the same level of risk you can when you're such a young person. Because even then, if you fail, oftentimes a lot of young people can go back and live with their parents. They don't want to, but they can. And then Ty Lopez, I remember in the 67 Steps, he says, you can go homeless. Now, I don't know if you can go homeless up in Canada in the winter. I think they might have some sort of community centers where you can sleep in the winter or something like that, but it might not be as good as California. I'd recommend just trying to stay away from going homeless. And yeah. Anyways, so what that says to me, what I plan on focusing on, I was just out for a run and I was thinking, okay, if I'm going to be moonlighting my money, how much time am I going to allocate to making money? And how much time am I going to allocate to my passion or whatever my passion is? And I think the ratio for myself is going to be about 20 hours a week to moonlighting for money. 20 hours a week I'm going to focus on making money. My goal is going to be to make about that at the $1,000 to $2,000 a month. I could live on pretty easy. I think that's kind of funny, and the way I came to that number, I figured I could probably make 80 hours a month. I could make a job somewhere that pays $12 an hour. What does that equal out to? I got a calculator here. 80 times 12, so that'd be $960 a month. I'm so certain I could get a job paying more than that, especially with what I'm doing right now. So I think I'll be fine in terms of money. 20 hours a week goes towards that. The other 80 or whatever, how many other, I think, let me see, there's 24 hours in a day times 7. So there's 168 hours a week. Roughly 68 hours you're going to be probably sleeping or doing some bullshit. So, because 7 times 8 is 56. So you have 56 hours of sleep if you sleep only 8 hours. And you have another 12 hours maybe for showers, eating, things like that. So you have 100 hours of really working, waking life. The other 80 I plan on spending on my health, running, eating well, exercising. I'm going to get into a big habit of exercising and learning, or my mental health, sorry, too. So that's in my meditation. I'm going to spend an hour a day meditating. That's my goal. And an hour run every morning right before my meditation. And then I want to spend 5 hours a day on reading. So that's a 7-hour shift right there. 7 times 7, that's only 49 hours a week. Where that I'm only dedicating 50 hours a week to my side hustle. I feel like I could do a lot more than that. And then the other 50 hours that I have, they're not dedicated. Now, one of the best things I like about talking is I can come to new realizations that I haven't had before. And I just had one right now where I just looked at the numbers. People lie, numbers don't. I know Ty Lopez always said that one. And I realized, I have another 50 hours to allocate. And if I'm going to choose what to allocate those other 50 hours to, I think it's going to be to working out a lot more. It's going to be a second gym session. Let's add a good 1.5 hours a week for that, times 1.5. So we're at 10, so now we have 30 hours left. And for the next 2 weeks, those 30 hours are going to be occupied with school. This is my last semester. I'm going to be graduating in 2 weeks. But after those 2 weeks, I think out of those 30 hours, myself, I'm not going to put them all to work. I'm going to take maybe 20 hours, go into work, and then another 10 hours. I'm going to split between 5 hours of reading and 5 hours of work per the week. So it'd be 25 hours of work a week. And that's going to be the ratio I stick with, I think. Now, some people right off the bat might criticize the social part. And myself, inside my own head, I can criticize it as well. But I was just thinking right now, basically, I read a book by, I think it was either Matthew, one of the Liebermans, might have been Daniel, I think it was Matthew Lieberman though, named Social. And in the book, he basically talks about how humans are social creatures, or social animals. We get a lot of happiness from socializing with others. That came into my mind why I should have 20 hours a week that I socialize. I'm just looking at the numbers, and I'm going to have to write these numbers out. I'm going to write them out while I talk here. So, this is probably not the best content material, but this is, it's kind of for me too. So, in every week, there's 168 hours total that we have. If I'm going to say 56 hours, so that's 8 hours a night sleeping. I'm going to spend 1 hour a day probably getting ready to go to bed, and 1 hour a day, or maybe 30 minutes in the morning for my morning routine. I think that's pretty fair every day. So in the week, I'm going to be looking at about 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 30 minutes getting ready in the morning, 7 hours getting ready at night. I would say another 3.5 hours a week of eating. What else do you think? Honestly, I think I'm going to have 7 hours a week of eating. 7 hours a week, that's a long time. But what I'm thinking there is it takes maybe about an hour throughout my whole day to do all of the meal prep and cooking that I do. Let me just see. Let's just add up what we have here. I'm sorry you can't see it, but I'm just doing it on my notepad here. So 56 plus 7, that equals to 63, plus another 7, 70. And then we have 73 hours and 30 minutes so far out of our 168. So we have 168 more hours to allocate. I'm going to allocate 7 more hours to running in the morning, so 1 hour run. So then that's going to add another 20 minutes of showers every day, which times 7 That's going to give us 2 hours and 20 minutes for the week. Um, and then we're going to have 1 hour of meditation a week, so 7 hours of meditation. It's 1 hour of meditation a day, so 7 hours of meditation a week. And then we're going to have, I would prefer to do 5 hours a day of reading. 5 hours a day. I would love to do 5 hours and 35 hours a week of reading. I think that's a amount that I want to do. That's how much reading I want to do, and I think that's just going to be so good for me. I'm going to add all this into it right now. So we had 73 hours total once we had the sleeping, the showering in the morning, getting ready in the morning, going to bed at night, and eating. Now we're going to add into the 7 hours a week I'm going to do running, 2 hours and 20 minutes extra of showers I'm going to have because of running, the 7 hours of meditation, and the 35 hours of reading. So what's that? 7 7's 14 plus 2.2. So it's 16, 20 minutes plus 35, 41, 51, 51 hours, 20 minutes plus 73, 51 plus 73, 74, 124, 50 minutes. So I'm at 124 hours and 50 minutes out of 168. This leaves us with 43 hours and 10 minutes. 43 hours and 10 minutes. That's another full-time job. What I think I'm going to leave the rest of this time to is school and miscellaneous. I'm not going to label it all right now. And that's how much time I'm going to spend. Oh, wait. I didn't put work in there yet. Okay. Work is going to be, how many hours a day? 3 hours a day? Really? I'm going to do work at 12 hours a day. So that's 2 hours a day, basically, of work. How many hours a day? Okay, it's 12. So I have 30 hours, 31 hours roughly left. I have to do school. Shit. School is going to be about, going here forward, I would say school is going to be about 20 hours a week. So that's 3 hours a day. So we have 10 hours a day left. That 10 hours is going to be that 10 hours, I need more time in the gym. Reading for 5 hours a day. Yeah. I might read for 4 hours a day in gym then, but that 10 hours is going to be left to social / miscellaneous. Okay. So I just wrote out the hour allocation I have every day to all the activities. And once I graduate school, I plan on actually having a structure so hard of my day where every moment I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. So from this time to this time, I'm going to be focusing on work. From this time to this time, I'm going to be focusing on reading. From this time to this time, this is when I'm running. This is when I'm doing this. And one of the other added ways, one of my added strategies for how I'm going to achieve this is I'm not going to be connected to my phone nearly as much. I'm connected to my phone right now, funny enough. You know, my headphones are literally connected to the phone or in my ears. But I'm just going to try to get rid of my phone because I've noticed I've been checking it a lot more. My screen time is up. It used to be around 3 hours a day. Now it's at 5. I'm just getting a little bit addicted to my phone if I wasn't already. So I plan on disconnected from my phone. The next thing I wanted to talk about was basically a lot of stuff I went over very briefly. But my passion, what I think I'm going to be doing is podcasting. I think podcasting is a very interesting way to learn. You can interview so many interesting people and get to meet them that way. I don't know if I'm good at podcasting. I feel like I'm good at asking people questions. So I would love to at least try it out. You know, I'm going to taste the cherry, as Gary Vaynerchuk says. I think I have some good things I can share. I don't know if they're honestly the best to listen to, but I do think it would be fun, and I would love to read a lot and try to share what I learn. And yeah, so hopefully that works out. And I could see myself definitely putting effort into this. I'm going to have to redo the schedule after this for how many hours I'm going to allocate to everything. The other thing today, I went on a run today. I went on a run. And I went on a run for probably a good 30, 40 minutes. I only planned on running for 20. But what happened was once I got out there, I started really experiencing some good feelings. And I realized running is a way for myself to really clear my mind and get into a kind of meditative state. Um, I don't know why it is, but it just really puts you in the moment and helped me really think and clarify my thoughts. I actually just, right after the run, I came home and now I'm doing this. So I plan on running. I'm going to try to run about an hour a day. I feel like that's going to be really hard on the body. To get around that, I'm just going to run as much as I can. But running an hour a day, I think there's a, just try it out. Maybe it's a drug for you too, where it just kind of helps you, but for me, it's really going to be something. The next thing I wanted to talk about was a quote from Poor Charlie's Almanac. I've been reading Poor Charlie's Almanac lately. Um, and I take notes on all the books I read, and I'll post all the notes after I'm done reading this book on my blog as well. But the quote is on page 87. We try to profit from always remembering the obvious uh, rather than from grasping the esoteric. And that's what Charlie Munger says about him and Warren Buffett for how Berkshire Hathaway makes money. We try to profit from the obvious, from always remembering the obvious rather than the esoteric. What Charlie is saying is he's always hitting the fundamentals. He's always hitting what he knows, what he's sure to be right, rather than the things that are, rather than grasping the esoteric. And the definition of esoteric, I guess I have to do it on my computer here, it's kind of like outlandish, like anything that's let me read it off to you from Google. Definition, Jamie. What does esoteric mean? Okay. It's an adjective intended for or likely to be understood by only a small number of people with specialized knowledge or interests. So esoteric things are kind of on the fringes of what's happening. They're kind of more niche, you could say. And that's
Esoteric.
esoteric. So yeah, the reason why I really like this quote is Charlie's reminding us to look at the fundamentals. And even myself, I've noticed in the past months or so, I've really lost sight of the basics and I'm trying to re-bring them back into my life. And slowly but surely, Charlie Munger always says, step by step you get ahead. So slowly but surely, bringing them back, having the awareness factor, reading, and trying to get the fundamentals that Charlie Munger talks about in his book. Now, I'm going to tell you there's 4 fundamentals that Charlie says are really important, and these are the fundamentals that he said have led him to getting to where he is. So let me see. I should just know them. Oh, here they are. This is something else, actually, but I'll just tell you them. The number 1 fundamental he had was to be prepared. He says in the book, him and Warren Buffett spent an ungodly amount of time researching and reading. One of his main strategies in investing for Berkshire Hathaway, he says 80% or 90% of the wealth that they've created was made on 10 bets. Whereas you see a lot of other stock traders betting a lot on a bunch of different stocks. Him and Warren Buffett said, bet on ones that you know are going to win and beat the market over the next 10 years at, say, 15%, rather than betting on all these crazy ones that, maybe it's kind of like they're a little bit they're a little bit more conservative and hitting sure shots that are actually going to make it. So being prepared, taking the time to read and really, have a good grasp on what's actually happening, is one of his, essential core principles that he said has got him there. The next one was patience. And there's actually another quote here. Let me see if I find it that on patience. Here it is. Patience. I don't have the page written down, but patience, the art of waiting without tiring of waiting. So the big reason why he was big on patience was he would buy a stock and hold it for 10 years. So him and Warren Buffett, they bought Coca-Cola and Gillette, and they've been holding it for so many years now. I know another one they were talking about, I don't remember the name. It's like 1979 they were holding it from. These are the big winners that they see are going to win in the long term, and they're saying that it's just a lot better. Patience, you'll get your dues. I know Gary Vaynerchuk talks about patience too, where it's kind of like Gary had a great quote on it too. I don't remember it, but basically, oh, I got a great quote. This is from Tony Robbins. A lot of people overestimate what they can get done in 1 year, and underestimate a lot. A lot of people underestimate what people could get done in 10 years. And then Woody's gamer tag. I'm not sure many people are going to get that reference, but one of my early mentors, he talked about how you can really do anything. If you put 10 years of diligent work towards any single goal, you could probably get there. Obviously you got to keep things in realms. I'm not going to the NBA personally. I'm 5'9", but I mean I could go to the NBA, but I'm not going to. It's not a good bet. It's not a good poker hand to bet on. Within reason, though, you can do almost anything. Which brings it to another quote. I remember Ty Lopez said his mom used to always tell him, Ty, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So you gotta choose the right thing that you want to do to get good at. So you need a goal. You gotta choose that thing you want to get to. Another quote to go back on that. I have so many for this one point. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's on the wall there behind me somewhere. Arnold Schwarzenegger. One thing he said. He's right there. He said, if you don't have a goal, you're floating through life aimlessly. You're just kind of flowing. The wind's going to take you wherever. It's not necessarily going to take you to where you want to go. So yeah, I can't remember how we got started on that, but you have to have a goal and you have to have patience to get there from the long term. The next thing that Charlie had was discipline. Basically, don't indulge to your biases. Um, Ty Lopez talks about one of the main factors in success that scientists have, correlated on the graph at least. And one of the factors was conscientiousness. Now, conscientiousness has four factors. There's perfectionism, and you all know perfectionism, diligence, basically working hard, organization, which is as it sounds, and there's prudence. Now, prudence, it's basically about making good decisions. Highly prudent people they're good at inhibiting their desires, so to speak. So, an example would be somebody who's highly prudent wouldn't take a lot of drugs. They probably don't smoke cigarettes. That's somebody who's a little bit more prudent. Somebody who makes better decisions is more prudent. We all have the friend, that every time we hear what they're doing, they're just making the stupidest decision. They have the option, a good job and a bad job. They take the bad job. It's low prudence. Charlie Munger says discipline is good for prudent. It's what I'm relating into is the prudence that Ty Lopez talks about in conscientiousness. It's a matter of making good decisions. Someone who is disciplined isn't going to get dragged by the wind or their biases into making the wrong decision or making a worse decision overall. And then the fourth factor Charlie Munger talks about in the book, for one of the basics, is being decisiveness. Now, to be honest, I don't really know why. I would imagine, though, if you're not decisive and constantly living in a sort of a chaotic state where you're not really sure what's going to happen, it's almost like being dragged not every single direction. If you're not going to focus hard on one thing, or you're not deciding on what to do, and you're kind of doing whatever, it probably won't go too much into your favor. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about for this podcast was kind of the role of guests. I'm going to try to get guests on this podcast. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I think it's just a matter of DMing everybody and seeing who comes. But I'm going to try to get guests, and I'm going to try to extract as much knowledge as I can out of them. So one of the things I just want to say, if anybody ever listens to this, if you want to be a guest, just email me. My email is mattchiem01, mattchiem01 Just email me, and I'll get you on the show as a guest, whatever. We'll work something out. We'll prepare some questions so you kind of have some idea of what you want to talk about. But yeah, have a good day, guys. I'll probably see you tomorrow with everything else I learned and maybe even a guest. Bye-bye.